just a little bit, just to make sure that the music is only here to accompany. It's it's just so we avoid having like dead air and all that. Are we getting enough sleep? Yeah, actually we are. Okay, bump up the volume now. Okay. Joe Cat is not related to the game. The little doodle you see on the bottom right, which is supposed to represent how I look, is made by Joe Cat. But that's all. That's all there is. Okay, so the countdown is over. I'm going to switch to the actual presentation. So hello, here I am. So hopefully, those who see me for the first time do not recoil in horror, as I am actually a human being in flesh and not just a little doodle made by Joe Cat. And we're going to be going over the second Wishing Well event, which is the event that took place in June 2 months ago, where everyone could send us their proposal for a monk, a bard, and a warlock subclass. This is going to be a little bit more of a boring than compared to usual, as in you're not going to be able to see the game. It's more going to be a PowerPoint, because that's how we usually do things internally, and we kind of wanted to share with you how we're doing things, basically behind the scene, just to let you know how things work here. So, all right. We are going to first be giving you guys a little bit of a recap on the Wishing Well event. So the numbers and all that. So what is it? Because some of you who happen to drop by the channel, and goddammit, I just saw a mosquito, so now I'm distracted. So some of you might not know what it is about. The Wishing Well was, as we have explained, an event where everyone can submit subclass designs for upcoming classes, which are coming over the future DLC. And just gonna hide the webcam for a bit to avoid hiding text. Why do we do that? There's been some people, and we all know, internet, a lot of people can get very heated and all that. We're not trying to blame anyone, but we have seen some people saying, hey, you guys are out of ideas, you're trying to steal ideas from people. That's not really the case. Like, if we wanted to homebrew 5 different archetypes, we would homebrew 5 different archetypes. That's not really, like, the ideas are not what's lacking when we work on new archetypes. It's all about, like, the time and effort we have to put in them to implement them in game. But when it comes to just the ideas, we already have plenty. So the reason we do that is because we have realized early during the Kickstarter that people really, really wanted to, have ideas of their own put into the game, because it's actually a very fun thing to see, and to it's kind of like rewarding when you have like this idea and you talk to the devs about it, and the devs go, yeah, that's actually a good idea, let's put that in the game, right? So our Kickstarter was all about sharing with the community and talking and being transparent, and having this communication. During early access, we had the community choose, for example, what monster was going to come in the game. For example, I think the troll was the one that was selected. Oh no, it was the Minotaur. So the Minotaur got chosen. We added it into Crown of the Magister, and then the troll was number 2, so we added it in Lost Valley. And then we also had the Etin that we didn't add in, and we also had the Ettercap, I think, that we didn't add in. So those were the 4 choices, and at the end of the day, we prioritized what the community wanted. We also did that for one of the subclass for the wizard. Back then, we had the choice between the stone wizard and the green mage, and the stone mage actually didn't get in. So we continued doing that after the launch of Solasta 1.0, because we had like a DLC coming up with the barbarian and the druid. So that was the first Wishing Well that happened in August 2021, so just 1 year ago. And we had as winners the Path of Stone in the Barbarian and the Circle of Winds for the Druid. And the finalists were the Path of Sacrifice, the Path of Might, the Path of Dragon, the Path of Warpaint, and the Path of the Chieftain for the Barbarian. I can even like give you guys a little bit of a recap of what they used to do so that you know. Passive Stone, as you know, it's actually in game now, so it's really about like the enduring barbarian with like temporary HP, who just like tanks a lot and kind of like avoid this problem of barbarians on tabletop sometimes just getting worn down slowly and slowly by small attacks. The Passive Stone barbarian was really made to endure all the small hits with this constantly regenerating temporary HP, but a low amount of temporary HP so that burst damage still goes through and damages the barbarian, so he doesn't become invincible. Sacrifice barbarians were the theme around getting damage in order to get more bonus. So they had features like getting damage during a turn would allow them to have bonus until the end of their next turn. Bonus damage, bonus attack, all those kind of things. They will get also more and more difficult to kill as they reach lower HP levels. But we didn't go with that for many reasons. First of all, because Passive Stones was really, really awesome and we really liked it. But Sacrifice also had this little issue where whenever we design, our homebrew stuff, we try to stay faithful to 5e as much as possible. And 5e does not have a lot of features that goes if you're below 20% HP. Those kind of things are more like games, and a lot of games are using that. Where it's like, oh, below 25% HP, you gain like bonus lifesteal or something like that. But D&D has a couple of features like, you cannot heal above half health or something like that, but you don't really have those 20%, 30% threshold because you don't usually calculate what 30% of your max HP is. So that was for Sacrifice. Might was something that is very, very much of a standard powerful barbarian, kind of like think about these kind of not stereotype, but kind of almost like the comics, where you had these monstrously strong mans that would do like feats of might, and they would get like very, very strong hits. They would get like bonus damage. They would be able to push people very easily. They would be able to like bull rush as a baseline and those kind of things. Dragon, we had kind of considered it, but we didn't want to have too many dragon archetypes for too many characters. And the reason for that is because it kind of starts blending in, but we ended up still doing it because it was still something that was kind of cool. In the Lost Valley update, we had the Path of the Claw that got added. So in the end, it's like, oh well, should we add the dragon? Dragon kind of like, we could do archetypes dragon for a lot of classes. Should we really do it? And then we kind of thought about it, and it's like, yeah, barbarian for dragons kind of made sense in the setting of Solasta, where dragons were kind of hidden in the wilderness, and they are kind of descendant from dragons. So yeah, okay, yeah. Warpaint was another very interesting, interesting theme because it kind of took the barbarian and added magic, but not in the way of like just slapping magic on the barbarian saying, hey, we call it that today and it's all good. Warpaint was really about trying to incorporate tribal features and kind of like traditions into the barbarian. So really kind of thinking about the shamans and enhancing the barbarian with different tattoos, giving them magic abilities, but not like casters, but more like tattoos that would demotivate enemies, kind of like casting bane on enemies around them, or inversely tattoos that would kind of bless your allies when you're near them, those kind of things. And the last one was the Chieftain Archetype, which did not get retained, but kind of became the I don't remember the name of it. I think it was for the fighter, it was the Commandeer. So the Commandeer for the fighter was an archetype in Lost Valley that would buff their allies. And the Chieftain was basically that idea. It was the barbarian who kind of like run into the fray and gave a lot of buffs to their allies by just leading from example. And then we had the Druid. So Circle of the Winds is the one that you got in-game with a Druid that is very free-flowing and that can just like, disengage very easily, that could guide the allies' strikes and all that. But as finalists, we also had a Circle of Plants, more or less, where it was, uh, you know, something that kind of a lot of people were saying. In the end of the day, at the end of the day, Druid, as in like the Druid class that is very close to nature, doesn't really have a the circle that is focused on just plant and nature. So we kind of thought about it. The reason why we didn't go with this one was because there was a lot of things to implement. It is a very interesting theme for roleplay purposes and for tabletop. But in a video game, it was being kind of hard to find a way to implement a plant druid. We also had the Cycle of Life druid, which kind of, took shape as well as the Balance druid, the Circle of Balance in Lost Valley. It was really a druid that could heal and that could heal and also harm, and that's what ended up being an inspiration for the Balance druids in Lost Valley, with druids that could heal over time and that could also and let's be honest, heal over time is something we've all seen the druids from World of Warcraft do. It was kind of their thing. And we also had the kind of what's the name of that, there's this cantrip, Frost touch. I don't remember the name of it. There's a cantrip that prevents from people from healing, right? And basically we took that Chill Touch. Yeah, sorry, thank you, Leo. So Chill Touch was kind of used as a baseline for one of the features, saying whenever you damage an enemy with a spell, you apply the effect of Chill Touch, which is very situational because there's not a lot of monsters who actually heal over time, but it is kind of a big flavor in that. And then there was all the themes about healing, which we thought was a little bit too much one-dimensional, and also kind of started stepping onto the life, the life cleric's feat. So that was for Wishing Well number 1, and the way we do it, the way it works for us, just above, is we take all the submissions, we read through all of them, and for this time it was more than 3,000 submissions in total, so it took a lot of time. I was the one reading them. And then we basically group them in different themes. We take the themes that we like the most, and we decide, and basically we create archetypes for each of those themes when we can. So for example, for this one we had just too many archetypes. So what would happen, what would ended up happening was we selected a couple of favorite themes and we voted, and the 2 highest ranked themes we created archetypes. So when I say we created archetypes, is that we basically take a look at all the themed archetypes and we check all the different features, and then we take the features we really like and we adapt them. For example, sometimes we switch the level of the feature and we improve them or we nerf them depending on the numbers as well. And at the end of the day, we go back in with the design team and we vote a final archetype. So what you will be seeing today is that you'll be seeing all the runner-ups, and then we'll be going to show the actual winners. So before that, how do we actually create an archetype when we're working on a new archetype? For those who don't really know how we do it, when we have a new class, we take first of all, we adapt the SRD subclass, the SRD archetype, and that is usually not changed much unless there's stuff that is really impossible to do or not impossible, but things that we don't have in game. So for example, role play abilities and all that, we know that in Solasta we don't have that. So we usually take them out and we replace it with something else. That was the case notably for the monk, because open hand monks have at level, I think 10 or 11, something that allows them to cast Tranquility with key, and we don't really have Tranquility. Oh no, so Tranquility is the name of the feature. I think it was Sanctuary that they cast. So instead we changed it and we actually buffed it by saying, hey, you can use key to cast Shield. So we're kind of still looking at the numbers because Shield is very powerful, and giving that to a monk, which is already kind of slippery, but also has been, said that the problem with monks is because they need so many different stats, they can end up kind of squishy. We'll have to see how it works. And then after that, so that is the SRD, right? And that is the easier one. And then we go for the homebrew ones. So the homebrew ones, we start with the writers giving us a couple of themes and ideas, with a little bit of lore, and then from there on, we kind of start making a few features in the same theme. We make sure that they're kind of like, we read through all the existing archetypes that are official, just to make sure we're not like, copying one by mistake. It can happen. As a fun fact, the Spellblade used to have one feature that was almost the same as the Eldritch Knight, and we didn't like notice it because there's just so many things to do when you start to work on a game that we just stumble upon it at some point, and when we were going to start like coding it, and then we're like, wait, that's actually an official feature. It already exists, so we can't do that. So we had to change that. But the idea of it is we go through the existing official subclasses, we read through them, we make sure that we understand the class well, how it works, why it works, what they're good at, and what it does, and we try to make something that is new, but not, and not copy too many things, right? And from there on, what we also do is that we finish the design, we ask ourselves, okay, is that archetype actually an archetype for the class we're working on, right? Because if you cannot recognize the class by looking at the archetype, then maybe that means the archetype is not suited for that class. This happened recently, for example, with one of our ideas for Bard. We had something called the College of Traditions, and it was kind of like this, Manacalon era college with wizards, or actually not wizards, and that's actually already betraying the problem it had. It's like it was a college of elves who would try to search an area of music, an area of magic through music. So it's kind of like Manacalon era was really focused about magic and researching magic. You have to remember that before we had the Cataclysm on Solasta, there were no gods. So the area that the game takes place in was the Manacalon Empire, and it was basically elves overshadowing everyone else, and they had very good mastery of magic, and the College of Tradition was trying to show that by saying, hey, elves not only search through arcane magic, but also try to research into music that could make magic. But by doing so, we ended up thinking, hey, the College of Tradition kind of sounds like almost like a wizard school at this point, because it's like researchers going through minutious, research about how to create magic from music, rather than bards being the music creates the magic. It was more like the searching the magic inside the music. So it was making it a little bit confusing, and we were kind of like, okay, well, maybe the College of Tradition isn't really suited as a bard archetypes. So yeah, exactly. It was more like scientists trying to understand jazz than musician playing jazz. So we were talking about scientists and not musicians. Bards are supposed to be musicians, right? So now that we have explained a little bit of the creation process, we're going to start with our first new class, the Bard. So we're going to talk about the runner-ups first. So the Bard. The Bard is one of the 3 remaining missing classes from Solasta. For those wondering, wait, isn't there also the Artificer? An Artificer, I regret to say, is not part of the SRD, so we cannot add the Artificer in Solasta. So we have Bard, Bard who is our resident spellcaster musician. And in 5e, Bard is kind of a full-on caster, and many kind of even consider Bard as one of the best caster because of just how many spells they can cast, right? And they can even steal from other classes, so you can kind of pick and choose the spells you want to cast. We are going to jump into the first runner-up for the Bard, and we have a illustration from Lil Hild, who we've commissioned this time to make a little illustration for all the runner-ups and the finalist in a very, very cute format. We thought it would be a little bit interesting to do that this way. And what we are going to be, what I am going to be asking you guys is trying to guess what the theme of this submission was, because we basically, as I said before, had different thematics, and then we chose the thematics that we liked the most. We're not talking about one single college. We're talking about a global theme. So just kind of think large. So I see battle shouts, I see tantrums, sonic damage theme. So yeah, it was sonic damage theme. So the examples we had inside this theme were, and there were more than that, right? There were a lot of them. Remember, there were more like there were around 1,000 submissions for each subclass, for each class. So of course, there's like multiple people who may have like submitted a College of Screams. It happens that there's like multiple people just submitting the same name. It's fine, right? So we had College of Roar, Mayhem, Dissonance, Screams, which all were kind of like, put into the thematic of sound. So sonic damage, thunder damage. So these subclasses, all those colleges, were revolving around the Bard as a nuker, really like dealing heavy damage through features, which the little issue we had with that is Bards are already full-on casters, so they can already deal super high damage with, fireballs, just like a wizard would. And the problem that we had with this is that adding damage through the features were kind of, either we had like these ideas where people were saying thunder damage is like augmented, but the thing is there's not that many spells with thunder damage, so you kind of had to pigeonhole your build into having to pick only thunder damage spells, which is not something that we really want, because it kind of like it becomes like an archetype that builds itself. And on the other hand, we had other people just saying, hey, my feature as level 6 is I can do this and it deals damage. But features that deal damage don't really scale. As you might know from like official classes, we have very few features that scale in damage over time. We have an example for example, monks unarmed damage, but that's part of the monk. That's not part of an archetype of the monk. So having a damage feature that scales up is kind of like very heavy, because you need to say, okay, level 5, it's like 2d6, level 6 it's like 7d6 or something. You have to every few levels you have to update the feature. So then we go on to the second. And by the way, the artist, if you like her art, don't hesitate to follow her on Twitter and give her some love. She's really, really great. She's been like a pleasure to work with, and she also does commissions. So if you like her art and you have a few things on your D&D table you want to illustrate, just give her a go. This one I really, really liked. So what is the thematic behind this one? I see lullaby, rest, nature, harmony, sleep, comfy snuggles, Disney princess, charm, illusion bard, fey enchantment, entrancing symphony. So those who are actually puppeteer, right? So I've seen the thing now, hypnosis. So yeah, those who pay attention will notice that there's two things that can betray the nature of this bard. First is the hand movement, and second is the wires coming out of the fingers. It is not necessarily a puppeteer, but it is all the themes around control and debuff. So examples were College of Lethargy, College of Minds, College of Elegies, College of Discord, where the bard would kind of control the enemy through various debuffs or spells. But once again, we kind of ran into the issue where, Bard is a full-time spellcaster. He can already do that just through the spells. And a lot of the features that were included in the theme were really, really cool, but they were all roleplay on tabletop. It's kind of like when you talk to an NPC, you can do this and they can think that and stuff like that. And this is something that we don't have in Solasta, unfortunately. We don't have enough writers to change all the, ideas or all the text, all the dialogues for the NPCs. And also because we're full voice acted in the game, it would take just too much money to have everyone re-record like so many dialogues. College of Discord, Telegram, and WhatsApp. Yeah, exactly. So it was really, really cool. I really, really like this thematic here about like debuff and control for bards. But it also is one of the bigger, it's one of those where a lot of official classes are already kind of inside that category. All the debuff control bards, for example, the bard of, let me just check. I'm just going to open my book here and my, can you move? The cat is just going in front of the keyboard, being a bit annoying. Oh, go away. Oh yeah, the webcam is off. Okay, I'm just gonna put back my webcam because. So yeah, I have this this very annoying cat that's just walking on my on me like every few seconds. Nope. And I think he unplugged my headset. Oh, it's okay. All right, go away. We good. We good. So as I was saying, yeah, the Bard has already kind of a lot of official classes like that. Bard of Glamour, Eloquence, Whispers are all about like debuff and control as well. So yeah, the cat is cute, but I think Tabaxi is not in the SRD, so we cannot add the SRD. So okay, let's move on to another subclass. What is this one? This one should be kind of easy to find out. The global theme. Fencer, sword, duelist, flashbow thing. Yeah. So College of Sword equivalent duel. Okay, yeah. So you already got it. So this one was all the classes, all the subclasses that were around like battle bard, martial bard, bard that would fight. So we had College of War Chants, Savagery, Scalds, Dueling, and it's actually one of the top two for the bard that we had. We wrote actually an archetype for College of Dueling from the submissions, and the bard already has College of Swords and College of Valor. So we had to be very careful not to copy that, of course, because that's not the goal of it. So the College of Dueling that we had, and that might, you never know. When we look at those subclasses, and we're thinking about the future, we know that we can add like a certain amount in one go. But for example, for Lost Valley, you've seen that we have added kind of the dragon theme into the barbarian, and we kind of added the College of, the life and death cycle into the circle of balance. So if we ever do another run for adding new subclasses, that might be a subclass we add for the bard, the College of Dueling. What we envisioned for the College of Dueling, with the help of all the features that were submitted to us, were a kind of almost. It was kind of working similar to Blade Dance, but for bard. Where they would get like bonus AC, they would get the ability to like counter when the enemy would miss them. They would be able to use their inspiration dice to, improve their AC as well. All those kind of things, which kind of worked pretty interestingly, without making them kind of like just run in and fight bard. So that was it for the 3 runner-ups for the Bard, we're going to be showing now the Monk. So the Monk has been coming in as well, one of the, or actually the last martial subclass that didn't have a home yet. And and the Monk has always been, you know, historically a difficult class thematically in Dungeon and Dragon. And by that I mean Dungeon and Dragon, the settings, even though they're various, very often all the classes are kind of based from a Western point of view, Occidental point of view, right? It's like the knights, the wizards, all those kind of things. It comes from the European and American folklore, and then you had a monk who were kind of like the stereotypical martial artist coming out down from their temple, like Shaolin temple on the mountain, sitting right next to the random, you know, town with this monastery and church and all that. And you're like, whoa, that's a little bit confusing, right? Like, it's a clash of culture, and it kind of the monk was almost defined by its Asian influence, which was kind of weird. So we thought a lot about that when we implemented the monk, and we tried to kind of separate culture from design, as in like what the gameplay does and who they are. So in Solasta, our monks are, again, they're martial artists, but it's more about any type of martial art. So, for example, we have internally, and I'm going to reveal that, we have one of the subclass, homebrew subclass that we'll be adding is the Way of Freedom. And the Way of Freedom is inspired and lore-wise from the history of capoeira. I don't know how to say that in English. Capoeira in French. Capoeira, where it's like, you know, it was an art that was developed by slaves to kind of like pass off as a dance in order to practice it, but was in fact a martial art to be able to fight against their captors. So it doesn't have anything to do with Asian martial arts, but still, it's kind of like this idea of martial art as a way of life, as a way of expression, and also as a way of defending oneself. So that is, for example, one of the subclasses we created on our end. But we also had a lot of very, very cool ideas coming from the community, and we're going to jump into the first runner-up for the monk, which is this one. What theme is that one? And this one might be a little bit complex to find out. Calligraphy, demon catcher, eating, culture, painting, scribe, calligraphy. So yeah, it's kind of you get the idea. But the global theme was artistry and craftsmanship. So, like I was saying before, we kind of thought about thematics for the monk and martial art, and it turns out martial art as a way of life is also very close for some to artistry and craftsmanship. It's a way to kind of express oneself, and you often find in some martial art movies that there is an aptitude for both. Maybe because in the behavior, the Zen aspect and all that. So we had as example the Way of the Pen, the Way of the Dancer, which in the end, the Way of the Dancer was very close to our own Way of Freedom for our monk, because it was based kind of like on a dancer. The Way of the Polished Glass, the Way of the Herbalist. And to be fair, this theme was very, very wide, as in the features were all over the place. Like, you could do so much with those kind of those kind of like thematics. But a lot of them also were very roleplay oriented, because at the end of the day, art and all those things is very linked to roleplay. And because in Solasta we're more focused on gameplay, as in like in fighting, in combat, they didn't really fit so well, right? So we couldn't really go with that, but those were really interesting for us. And the way that Lihild kind of implemented that was, or actually represented that, not implemented, but represented that as a drawing was really, really nice. We really liked it. Will the level cap go up with the new classes or DLC? No, not that time. And then we have this one. So what is this one? We've got a lot of things. But actually, okay, so I'm seeing a few that have the right idea inside the. I'm only seeing a few. Okay, so interestingly, we are talking about any monk that has to do with a thematic around magic. So, Way of Attunement, Way of the Sacred Talisman, Way of the Spellweaver, Way of the Magister is just a few of them. So, why? So, two things. First of all, why did we? Why did the doodle, like, why did the little drawing look like that? So, first of all, we didn't give too many direction for the artist. We wanted her to express herself. What we gave her was the thematic. We explained what the archetype could do, and she basically drew something from there. And what we liked about that one is that although it's a spellcaster, half caster, should I say, he was also showing a lot of agility, and that kind of sold us on the way that it's kind of a monk that can cast but still retains all the agility of being a monk. And with those for example, Way of the Four Elements, yes, that's kind of a way we can think about it, right? The reason why we didn't go with the magic sub-theme was because it was making the monk way too complex. So you know that the monk already is one of the class that has a complex set of stuff with key and scaling movement speed, scaling unarmed attack, scaling falling speed, all those kind of things. And adding another scaling thing on top of it, unlike adding it to the rogue or adding it to the fighter, was making it very, very convoluted. Like, you had to track your key points, but you also had to track your spells, and the only way around it would have maybe been to make it so that, Way of the Four Elements also was kind of like, yeah. So the only way to implement it would have been kind of doing like the official one, which is using key to cast spells like ability, but it's a little bit too complex because not too complex for that, but it's more like it's too close to the Way of the Four Elements, right? And it is, for us, it's kind of too complex for the player, because I see someone asking, "Hey, is it too complex for the source?" Like, because you have sorcerer, right? So sorcerer already has sorcery point and spell casting, but the sorcerer is already a full spell caster. So sorcery points are used to enhance those spells. Key is a complete separate feature. If we had the Way of the Talisman, where with like a half caster and key points on the side, either we would need to also add like features that would use key to enhance those magic. So again, we are talking about a key system that is used to like dodge or hit more, and suddenly turning it into, okay, my spells get cast better. And then it also kind of like, or we can use the key as like a spell source, but then it becomes kind of like the Way of the Four Elements, and that is a bit too close. Oh yeah, when I say a half caster, I mean like third caster, like rogue or fighter. But again, like rogue and fighters don't have to follow like their key, a key level and all that, so a little bit too complex. But we like the idea. And then we are going to go on to the next and the last runner-up for the monk, which is this one. What is the theme for this one? Yeah. Again, we find a lot of people finding the right answer, and that is great because that means that the drawing is straight to the point and a lot of people can recognize it. It is everything that has to do with meditation and balance. So examples were Way of Balance, Way of the Perfect Strike, Way of Patience, and Way of the Free Wind. But there are more, right? Like, again, I only show examples. If you submitted a an application, like a submission, a proposal with one of those themes, I have read through it. So here, what these archetypes were based around were kind of like finding the perfect opening. So you had a lot of like kung fu styles as a way of like a way of qigong, or a way of like there were a lot of like different name of martial arts, and a lot of them played around like a lot of different things. And in the end, Way of Balance, we also created an archetype around that. It was the top 2. So congratulations to everyone who made meditation and balance archetypes and who submitted them. The Way of Balance was the one that was number 2 for Monk, and it had features that went a little bit complicated. We had a Monk that kind of was dealing damage on shoves, so it kind of like made the shove action more interesting, and it was kind of like have a lot of different things in one type of Monk. It was really like versatile, where it would also like when you did Step of Wind, you would both disengage and dash, and difficult terrain would cost no extra movement, instead of just having to use Step of Wind to either disengage or dash, which is something that a lot of monks have complained about, because the rogue can do that for free, not using any key point by cunning action, and monks are already kind of key starved. So here we thought about what's the weaker features of Monk, how can we improve it. And it also had like it also dealt more damage to enemies who are prone, to encourage the shoving. And at the end, we also had a AoE attack that would deal damage and that would knock down enemies, kind of like a foot stomp that would kind of like in those martial art mangas, where you would have this guy just stomping the earth and it would send shockwaves and people would fall onto their asses. So this was one of the proposal as well that so again, the top 2, the one that we didn't go with but that could have made it, that went into the last round, which was very interesting. But at the end of the day, the one thing that made it not work was the shoving part, because the fact that a large amount of bigger creatures cannot be shoved made it so a few features of that Monk just didn't make any sense, like it wouldn't work. So it's always kind of frustrating when you give someone a feature and they just can't ever use it, and you just feel kind of dumb, because you're like, okay, so anything that is larger than L size is like I can't do it, like I don't have any bonus against it. So again, a little bit of a shame. We want to avoid having the same case of having kind of the baseline ranger problem, where the ranger is very good at what he does, but only if they are in the perfect situation, in the situation, like in the place that they are specialized into, doing the things they are specialized into. Otherwise, it's just a weaker fighter, and that kind of felt the same for the Way of Balance for us, where in a normal situation they would be perfectly fine and they'd been very good, but as soon as they would be like large creatures, they would lose half of the features. Okay, and now we're going to move on to the last class that is going to be added to the future DLC, and that is the Warlock. Warlock, very exciting. I know that a lot of people are waiting for the Warlock. It's one of the more popular class that was asked for by the community. The Sugar Daddy class, where you ask for powers and you get a trickle down of magic in exchange for terrible price, which in the case of Solasta, we just could not have this, because technically everything that has to do with the pact and the price you have to pay is roleplay. It's between you and the dungeon master on tabletop. We couldn't really add a kind of like a drawback for the class in Solasta, as in the computer tells you that for the pact you need to do this, and you're like, but no, I don't want my Warlock to be that kind of Warlock, right? So there we go, Warlock. Oh, and some people were asking, oh, by the way, will we have like, you know, pacts? Will we have incantations? Do we have Eldritch Blast? Yes to all. The only exception is Hex, because Hex is not SRD, but we have a homebrew spell that kind of does a similar thing, which is Malediction. So it's kind of like it's a little bit weaker. It's a little bit like Hunter's Mark for our homebrew Malediction. Are we getting multiclass? No, we are not getting multiclass. We've always said that we were not going to implement multiclass for many reasons, and one of them is just the amount of bugs it can create and the amount of work that it adds. Our game is already very complex, and you know that there's still kind of quite a few bugs, so we don't want to like add more instability on top of it. And if some are really interested into multiclass, you can absolutely take a look at the excellent Community Expansion 2 mod made by some fine folks over the Solasta Discord, who implemented a lot of additional subclass and who have unlocked up to level 20 and who have unlocked multiclassing. But it's a mod. That means that, you know, it can break the game and all that, and we are not testing it. So you can do whatever you want on it. Just make sure that you save before you start using the mod, and you create a different campaign when you do the modding, because we cannot fix any bugs when you have a modded save file. Like some people send us bugs that we cannot test because they have modded save files. But again, if you want to play with a lot of more options, Community Expansion 2, just go and Google that for Solasta. It's something that we can that you can have a lot of fun around. Plus, the devs working on that are very, very cool, and you can talk to them directly on Discord. Pole Arms Sentinel Feat. No pole arms. No pole arms because we already talked about that when we were doing the early access. Reach weapons kind of screw up with the way we do animations and all that. So a little bit of a hard time doing that. There is also something, so no Sentinel, but something to note, there will be new feats for free with the new DLC. So when the new DLC comes out, you know what we do. We always add free features on top of the paid DLC, because, the 3 class will be paid, but you will get some features on top of that. Notably, there is a lot of new feats. I think there's 17 of them, new feats, but a lot of them are the same kind. It's kind of like what a feat you take, and then it blocks the others. So yeah, that should help a little bit on the martial side, which, martial classes always get a little bit less choices than spellcasters. It's only going to be a class DLC. You're not going to get any story content. So, it's kind of like what we did for Primal Calling in Lost Valley. Primal Calling took a little bit less time because it's only classes. Lost Valley took a lot more time. So right after the launch of Lost Valley, we cannot get you a new campaign immediately because that's a lot of work. Alright, so let's go. This is the first submission, or first, runner-up for the Warlock. What type is it? What concept is it? It is very easy. Yeah, this one is very easy. It's everything that has to do, and I see that already, everything that has to do with Shadow and Darkness. So, example, our patrons were the Shadow, the Spectre, the Eclipse, the Nightmare, and those were all the different patrons that were linked to the Darkness theme. So, again, it's a little bit of a classic idea, but classic does not mean bad by any mean. No, sorry, cat, just go away. Go down, go down. Let me shoot you off. There we go. Okay, so those archetypes were a lot around revolving around, again, getting into people's dream, or affecting enemies during the night, all those kind of things, where there is a lot of issues we had implementing that into Solasta, again, those archetypes were really interesting as roleplay and tabletop options, but they were not a very easy fit for Solasta. For example, on tabletop, if you say something only, like a feature only triggers at night, you can absolutely try to plan around it and tell your group that you have special powers at night. And you can just, like, bypass the day by just hand waving it and saying we rest during the day. In Solasta, there will be fights where you're during the day, and you cannot just like long rest and immediately have the night. So again, it was a little bit of an issue, but I do agree with you, Rabilias, in the chat. Focus on light and lighting in Solasta is a thing, so darkness would have been cool. I want to tell you guys that every single archetypes we've talked about was very cool, and that was why we decided to have even an illustration for them, for each of them. But at the end of the day, we could only implement one single archetype from the community, so we had to choose. Being in the runner-ups is nothing to sneeze at. Again, like, there were 3,000 submissions, if you can remember. So having one of the actual archetypes that made it into the runner-ups is a very, very good thing. For his special neutral, he has a gun. No, that's not. No, we're not talking about this. All right. So then we're going to go into our second submission. The second submission is this one. This one, it will be kind of hard to know the global theme. You might find out just this patron. The global theme is it's not even a theme. So yeah, I see a lot of it. It's knowledge. It's a lot of things about knowledge. So if I give you the examples, you're going to be wondering, what does that have to do with knowledge, right? The puppet, the clockwork, the archive, the paradox. This is because patrons, unlike colleges or monastic traditions, are very diverse. They're really like singular entities, and it's very hard to group them together. What I added here is what we called various concepts. It is the different patrons that were really about not really an entity, but really about a concept. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the existing Warlock subclasses, you have something called the Fathomless, and that's what I called something which is a concept. So, as opposing to a concept, for example, is the Genie Warlock. The Genie Warlock is an entity. You know what a genie is. You can find a genie. That is a very easy thing to understand. It's the same with a fiend, a warlock. It's like, oh, okay, you have a fiend as your patron. But what is the Fathomless? What is this Fathomless? It's a concept around the deep sea. It's the depth. It's the the cold and infinite deep sea. It's kind of like the great old ones, where you're like, it's kind of an old entity you don't really know about. It's a concept. So here we have the puppet, the clockwork, the archive, the paradox, all of these which are not really monsters that exist in D&D, right? It's more concept. It's like, what is the archive? And this one, like, what is illustrated here was the archive, where it was like kind of the idea of this vast and infinite archive of knowledge that the Warlock can suddenly tap into, that kind of grants him power. If some of you have like anime and watch Full Metal Alchemist, we kind of thought about that too. Like, it's kind of like the doors that open, and then the knowledge that comes flooding in, and this Warlock is kind of like the recipient for it. So this and every single various concept, there were a lot of concepts that were really, really, really cool. The puppet, I still remember, was something that I tried to see with the programmers if it was something that could even be done. The puppet was a warlock that basically could, at some point, invoke copies of enemies, temporary copies of enemies. And I was wondering, can we actually copy a monster and make it like player controlled and make it fight against the enemy and stuff like that? but it was kind of opening doors to a lot of like potential problems. So the puppet, for example, is one of those archetypes that even if we did want to make it, even if we did really like it, it would have been probably cut because of the fact that it was too hard to implement, and we need to have like some time. We cannot spend too much time on a single archetype because we have just so many to do. For a reminder, in this new DLC that comes out, it is 3 classes, but since each of the class have 4 archetypes, we are adding 12 new archetypes. So that's a lot of things to add. And then we're gonna go on to the last mission, or last runner-up for the Warlock, and it is this one. This one is not the coffee lock, but I see the coffee lock. Coffee lock. Ancestors Spirit. Yeah. Shaman King. Yeah, that was actually an inspiration for the drawing. Tradition, Ancestors, Old. Yeah. So it is indeed anything that has to do with ancient heroes. So yeah, if you've seen Fates at Night, that's basically the idea. Any kind of ancient heroes that you can call upon, that is kind of your patron, your guide. And one of the reasons we really like this one as well was that unlike a lot of the official Warlock existing archetypes, this is one of the few ones where it's not immediately something with a dangerous connotation. When you look at the Warlock official classes, you have the Fathomless, you have the Fiend, you have the Great Old One, the Undead, the Undying, you have the even the Hexblade or the Genie. It's all about making a pact with something dangerous, right? Like the Great Old One is something dangerous. The Fathomless is something dangerous. The Genie, very often you have tales about how Genie tries to like twist around your words to kind of screw you over. So there's not a lot of kind of like friendly patrons. Like the closest you have would be the Celestial. And I wouldn't call Archfey, friendly if you know the lore of D&D, because Fays are one of the more dangerous creatures in D&D. So what we have here as the ancient heroes is a very, very friendly and benefits, kind of like good. Again, it can also be non-good aligned, but like we kind of had the idea of the spirit watching over your shoulder, guiding you to make you become a hero, instead of like helpful, beneficial. Yeah, so basically trading their knowledge to help you become the hero they once were. So we had examples such as the Great Ancestor, the Fallen, the Heroic Soul, the Legend, and they could be your ancestor, they could be heroes that just decided that you were the chosen one that they would try to help and see grow. And this was the finalist for the Warlock, and it was almost chosen. The features for the Ancient Hero Warlock was a lot of things that would like prevent danger. So, for example, Ancestor's Vigilance would prevent them from getting surprised, and they also get proficiency modifier to their initiative rolls, and they have advantage on anyone who hasn't acted yet. So basically having someone looking over their shoulder and warning them about the upcoming danger. And then you also had Seed of Potential, which was something that made them able to cast an additional spell before, basically Warlocks at low level, that you have like 2 spell slots. Seed of Potential allowed you once per day to cast an additional spell from your Pack Magic spell slot. So basically getting kind of the vibe of unlocking the Warlock's innate power and being like you can push past your limit and cast one more spell per day than other Warlock could. And then you had a Venerable Blessing, where anytime the Warlock became blinded, charmed, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, or stunned, they could immediately use their reaction to remove that condition. And that would be usable a number equal to their proficiency bonus per long rest. So basically, the the ancestor just watching over them, kind of shaking off the condition that they had so they could keep on fighting. And the last one was Ancient Power, which we found were the simplest, yet the coolest one, which is at level 14, your packed magic spell slots are considered 6th level instead of 5th level. As you know, at highest level, Warlocks packed magic stop at level 5. So any spells you cast is considered a spell of level 5. And this one did not unlock new spells, so be careful. You don't get access to level 6 spells to learn, but the spells you cast are considered level 6 as upcast. So it adds one additional level. So anyway, very, very interesting one. We really like the theme of that one, and I wouldn't have been upset if they were like, if it was chosen. Before we go on to the finalist, I will give a little shout out to the runner-ups that were the features that were used to create the finalist. For the ancient heroes, we used the Ancestor, and Ancestor's Vigilance was based on Quick on the Draw that was submitted by MK Maxi. Seed of Potential, the name was taken from a submission by James Trin, and it was the effect was taken from Arcane Recharge by Petrichor. Venerable Blessing was adapted from Blessing from an Old Age from Gulliver, and Ancient Power was from Ricardo Alvarez. So you guys really, really rock. We almost did that was the finalist. Almost came into the game, didn't make it, but you can be very proud about it. And just to go back to the others, the Way of Balance for the Monk was designed from Path of Balance, which were submitted by Dan Lewis and Jeffrey Scott. Both of them submitted a Path of Balance. The first feature, Flow Like Water, was taken from Flowing Combat Taking the Lead by Emeraldin. The second feature, which was called Earth and Sky, was based on Unhindered Movement by Ohei. Break the Mountain, the third feature, was based on Explosive Fist from Dr. Objection. Again, thank you very much for your participation. You guys almost made it. Almost. But I promise you'll see the finalists and the guys who won, and you'll understand why we chose that. And for the Bard, for the College of Dueling, College of Dueling was submitted by Matt Taladar Marshall. The first feature was Into the Battle, Fighting Style, and Vanguard was taken from Epic Charge from Fimart, and Sword Artist from, again, Matt Taladar Marshall. And then the Brilliant Riposte was taken from Tempting Fate from Dylan Roden. So again, thank you all for your participation. Now we're gonna go on to the finalists. Not the finalists, the winners. The winners! Are you guys ready? The winners. We are going to move on to the Bard first. The Bard. What college is this? I am waiting for the answer. So this time is not about the theme. This one is about the college. You can immediately go for the college that I'm asking for. Oof, very close. I saw one that was very, very close. I think I'm gonna take that as an answer. So we have Explosions saying College of Heroes, and that is it. That is the actual winner. So the theme for this one was actually something called Festivity. It was all about College of Carnival, celebrations, stories, heroism, and the winner is the College of Heroism. And I'm going to say a huge congratulations to Tristan Townend, William Sweatins, and Silvers that we took inspiration for the name. And actually, I'm gonna even have like the details. The name College of Heroism was taken from Tristan Tonand. The level 6 feature Thundering Voice was taken from William Sweatins, and At Road's End was taken from Silvers. So again, guys, congratulations. If you are one of the winners, please send us. Either you are on Discord, you can PM me on Discord. I am the admin of our Discord server, or you can send us a mail at contact. And in that, try to put all the information about the features in the class you submitted, so that we can make sure that it's you and not someone else pretending to be. So what does the College of Heroism do? And why did we choose it? First of all, again, Bard was a tough cookie to choose from. What we really liked about the College of Heroism was the fact that it was very, very straightforward. Because if you look at the existing archetypes for the Bard, the official ones, they are actually anything but straightforward. You have the Creation Bard, who is able to conjure small things. You have the Eloquence Bard, who is able to sweet talk people and all that. The Glamour Bard, which is all about the charm. The Lore Bard, which is actually something that we have, and the Lore Bard is more straightforward. You have the Spirit Bard, which is even more complex with the Tales from Beyond and having to roll a d12 for one of the different effects. And then we have Sword and Valor, which are the fighting bars, and then we have Whispers. Whispers, which is a little bit more straightforward, to be honest. So the Heroism Bard was really, really cool because, and I'm gonna give you the features that the Bard can do. As a reminder, after the stream, we will be publishing the article for the Heroism Bard. Actually, not just the Heroism Bard, but all the winners. So you can actually read again all the features and what they do. So even if I go a little bit too quick this time, you don't worry, you'll be able to find it again. So the theme of the festivity revolves around the Bard as an entertainer, but the College of Heroism was a little bit above that. First of all, the level 1 features, they have 2. The first one is Bolster Morale. Allies who roll the Bardic Inspiration die from the College of Heroism Bard always roll twice and pick the highest result. You basically roll your Inspiration die with advantage. And the second feature is Heroic Tale. So once per short rest, you can use an action to select an ally, and for 1 minute, they gain advantages on all saving throws and immunity to fright and fear effects. So basically, turning an ally into a hero, as in they cannot be afraid and they are very, very, tenacious against spells and other traps and all that. It takes an action though, so that's one of the things. It lasts 1 minute and it takes 1 turn to do because it takes an action. The level 6 is Thundering Voice. Thundering Voice is whenever you grant Bardic Inspiration to an ally, the closest enemy within 12 cells, so 60 feet, must make a Wisdom saving throw or take 1d8 plus Charisma modifier Thunder damage, and have disadvantage on their next attack rolls. So, and half damage on save. So this one is the effect of what's the name again? The Whisper? Dissonant Whisper? No, that's not the one. Oh, Vicious Mockery, I think. Vicious Mockery, right? Yes, Vicious Mockery, which is disadvantage on their next attack roll. So again, that can be resisted, and it only works on their next attack rolls, not like the full round or something. And the last feature at level 11, I think, is At Road's End. And At Road's End is, again, a very, very cool feature, which is whenever an ally you can see within 60 feet is reduced to 0 hit points, you can use your reaction to make them fall to 1 hit point instead. And it's once per short rest. So this is basically giving them the ability to kind of do what the half-orc passive does, and it goes well with the theme, which is with the Bard of Heroism there, you just don't die. Like, he doesn't heal you better, but it's like out of sheer heroism, you just don't fall. The knee falls to the ground, but you stand up once again to fight. All right. So I hope you enjoyed this one, because we're going on to the next one. For the half-orc, normally, because it's a reaction and there's a single use, you will have a pop-up in Solasta. So you can say, I do not want to use at Road's End on a half-orc, because that would be a little bit of a shame. All right, we're going on to the next one. The next one, who is the monk. What is the way? Do you know the way, my dear viewers? Light. Exactly. This one is an obvious one. The way of light. So the theme was revolving around key and supernatural themes. So as you know, the monk has all the supernatural things going around with his key, with their key, sorry. And that's also why we didn't want to go with the magic theme, is because we feel like key in itself is already super interesting, and we can do so much more than just copy spells again onto another martial class. So we ended up being going with the way of light. And for the way of light, surprisingly, there's only a single winner, and it is ADHD TV, because their submission was just so good that we ended up taking almost everything and adapting very little of it. So other people who submitted examples of the theme were the way of the flowing key, the way of the third eye, the way of the void. But at the end of the day, the way of light was just very, very good, in the sense that it was a very interesting package. It had a very clear message, and it is basically it's an all-in-one included. Like, it really worked well together. So how does the way of key works? So some people can already imagine, right? Because just from the image and from the name of it, you have an idea of what it does. So the first level, So the first feature, because you get the way of the monk at level 3, is Luminous Key. First of all, the monk can cast Light and Shine as cantrip at will, with Wisdom for spell casting. They do not need any component. You don't need like for example, a spell casting focus or anything to cast those spells. But if it was just that, it would be a little bit lame, right? So the second thing is, whenever you hit an enemy creature with one of the attacks granted by Flurry of Blows, they automatically start emitting bright light until the end of your next turn. So this is very strong, especially against creatures that are vulnerable to light, because you will, if you hit them with a Flurry of Blow, they will always be effective. And the only way to kind of like dispel that is to cast darkness or be inside the darkness, because a darkness spell overrides that. And then after that, they unlock Radiant Strike. Radiant Strike is anytime you strike an enemy that is eliminated by Shine or Luminous Key. So Shine can be cast by an ally as well. You deal 1d4 additional radiant damage. And because the monk hits a lot, that damage adds up very quickly. And then the last one is Blinding Flash. As a bonus action, you can spend 2 key points to generate a blinding burst of light. All creatures within 15 feet must roll a Constitution saving throw or take 3d6 radiant damage and become blinded until the end of your next turn. So kind of a Kikoho move. Actually, that's not Kikoho, right? Like, what's the move that Krillin does to blind everyone? I forgot the name of that. But yeah, this is Krillin Monk. Solar Flare, exactly, Solar Flare. This is Krillin Monk. So Krillin made it, right? Now you have a God damn it. Now I see it. Now I see it. Now it's gonna, like, the name is gonna stick. It's gonna be the Krillin Monk. It's no longer going to be the Way of Light. Just got in. What are the subclasses for? So the subclasses are for the upcoming DLC. They were submitted by the community, and we're reviewing the winners, which are the 3 that will be implemented. So Way of Light is the one for Monk, and the previous one that we've shown is the College of Heroism for the Bard. Way of Reflection. Oh, the Way of Krillin. Oh my lord. Okay, so yeah, we went from Way of Light being a cool theme into being a complete meme. Before we further desecrate the the theme and the idea of ADHD TV, we will be moving on to the Warlock. And the Warlock is also very, very cool. Can someone tell me very obviously what this is about? Right, exactly. Time. All right, that one is very, very easy. So the theme was time and space. We had example like the Rift Lord, the Outsider, the Timeless, the Timekeeper, the Orochrony Warlock. Okay, I see you, fellow Hololive watchers. And yes, the Timekeeper is the one who won. The Timekeeper who won, we have to congratulate 4 different people this time who contributed to this final Warlock. It is Kristen Price, Nathaniel Wheatley, Vilance, and Sci-Fi. Sorry if I'm like butchering your names, guys. It's really Arxon, you're here? Ooh. Is it one of the? Are you one of them? In any case, the Timekeeper Warlock is the official name. Yes, it's the one we chose. Your Valence? Oh, nice. Valence. Okay. So congratulations, then. See, you made it in. So, what does that Warlock do, and why did we choose this Warlock? So, again, time and space. Let's be honest, super cool theme. We would love to have this theme on a lot of different classes. And you even have that, right? You have the Echo Knight from from the. I don't remember the book. I don't think it's considered official, right? The Echo Knight, or is it? Well, Wildemont, is it considered like official? It is. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you have you have like the Echo Knight. You have the Gravitomancer. No. What was the name of the wizard? The wizard was the chronergy magic and graviturgy magic. So yeah, they added both of the time and the space magic. so basically, yeah, those ideas they're old as hell, and they are just so cool. And we also decided that the Warlock deserved to have a cool patron like that. So the patron is a timekeeper, and it does a lot of different things. First of all is Curse of Time. Whenever you damage an opponent with a spell, they become afflicted with Curse of Time. Enemies under the Curse of Time take half of your proficiency bonus rounded up in force damage at the start of their next turn for the next minute. So this is a slow burn. Basically, it is damage over time that is very little, but it adds up. Why did we think it is actually okay to give this to a Warlock at low level? Because, simply put, combat in D&D do not last very long. They actually just take, they very often you will kill a target in like 2 or 3 turns, or 2 or 3 rounds. So, at the end of the day, oftentimes you will be only adding your proficiency bonus like, once or maybe 1.5 time, which is the reason why we thought, you know what, it's okay. Let's try to do that. So for Solasta, of course, that might be longer, but the dot refreshes, it doesn't stack. Like if you throw 3 magic missile to an enemy, it doesn't suddenly become like 3 times your proficiency bonus getting damage getting onto the enemy, right? So this is the Curse of Time, and it is a passive that it triggers on all spells you cast on enemies. And then at level 6, you get Rewind. So, Rewind whenever you get hit by an attack or fail. Whenever you take damage. Sorry, because I'm looking at the old design. I'm just gonna take the new design just to make sure I'm not saying anything stupid. So it's not Rewind anymore. It's called Time Shift. So Time Shift, when you take damage, you can use your reaction to revert time, and you briefly disappear into a time rift and heal back the damage received. You're considering banished until the start of your next turn. After you use this feature, you can't use it again until you complete a long rest. So basically, you get damage, you jump into a time rift, you heal back all the damage you took from that attack, of course. Like, you're not healing to full life. And then you pop back up. So it's a self-banish effect. And there is also an expanded spell list, I think. Actually, I think... Yeah. So the spell list, the expanded spell list for the Timekeeper is it's Longstrider, Magic Missile at level 1, Blur and Calm Motion at level 2, Haste and Slow at level 3, Greater Invisibility and Phantasmal Killer at level 4, and Raise Dead and Mind Twist at level 5. Raise Dead because basically they're turning back time, so the guy never died. And it's one of the only Warlock that can resurrect someone, if I remember. If you are at 0 HP, it doesn't work, because you need to be alive after the hit to react. You do not lose concentration. As far as I know, we made like a kind of a workaround so that concentration doesn't get lost every time you do that. So that is the level 6. At level 10, they get Accelerate. You can use your bonus action to briefly accelerate an ally within 30 feet. They gain the effect of Haste until the start of your next turn. However, they do not suffer from lethargy when Accelerate ends, and you can use this feature a number of time equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. And it doesn't require concentration. So it's like a mini Haste. And that is pretty nuts. We might, again, for balancing purposes, we might end up nerfing it. But I want everyone to remember that in Solasta, we're talking about a game that is player against computer. Yeah, it's one turn haste, basically. And it doesn't have like the drawback of lethargy after that. So one thing that you will notice, and you have already noticed, is that Solasta subclasses are usually stronger than tabletop subclasses. Yeah, and you see a tail because the cat just went through. And that is normal. I want to have everyone understand that this is something that we know and that we have thought about. Solasta does not have multi-classing, and Solasta does not have access to official classes. So, some people are saying, but this is completely nuts compared to the official subclass. Well, great, because you can't play the official subclasses in Solasta. So that just is not a problem. And also, we can balance around that, right? So the thing about that is that we also have, for the tabletop version, for those who actually have access to the tabletop source book that we released during the Kickstarter, you will see that the features very often have been nerfed because a lot of the features were too powerful, such as sorry about that. What's the name again? It's the Shock Arcanist. Yeah, the Shock Arcanist for the wizard. Upcasting all their damage spell was insane, right? There was no limit. So this is something that on tabletop would never be allowed, because you could just level 2 dip into a Shock Arcanist and just it would be crazy. But on Solasta, you cannot multi-class, so it's already good. And the last feature that they have is very simple. It is simply called Time Warp, and at level 14, the Timekeeper Warlock gains the ability to do sorry about that. The name, I don't know why, but Action Surge. So basically, Time Warp is action surge for the Warlock, but it is it is gated between behind a long rest, not a short rest, because the Warlock is a spellcaster, and we didn't want him to abuse that at every single fight with short rest. Okay, I'm talking about level 14, but no, actually, level 14 is not implemented. So sorry, this is something that we have in design because, like, as well just design until the end, but it is not in game. Sorry, you cannot have time warp. My bad. Bad. Yeah, sorry. That was a little bit of a sorry. All right. So guys, again, congratulations to Kristen Price, Nathaniel Whitley, Valence Sci-Fi for the Warlock. Congratulations to AGHD TV for the Monk or Way of Light. And congratulations to Tristan, William Sweden, and Silvers for the Bard of Terrorism. If you are one of the winners, please do contact me by sending me a private message on Discord if you can. I am Mizrim on Discord. You can find me in the official Solasta Discord server. I am the admin, so you can just PM me there. Or you can also send us a mail at contact@tacticaladventures.com, which is something you can, like, if you Google Tactical Adventures, you will find a contact form. So you can just contact us there. Just make sure that you tell us who you are, your submission, so that, and the details inside the submission, so we can make sure it's you and not someone impersonating you. There we go. So normally, if you had the hardcover, you have the PDF. The PDF is inside your basically prizes on Products. You can download it there. So now let's go a little bit of a free talk, right? So a lot of you have questions such as when is it going to be, right? When is the DLC going to come up? And for this, I cannot unfortunately tell you right now, but I can say it's in a few months. So it's not going to be next week. It's not going to be in 1 month. You'll have to wait a little bit more than that. But we will be announcing it soon. So keep an eye out for articles and all that. You will know soon. And the second thing I want to say, and I want to tease without telling you who that will be, is that this DLC will also feature, as I said before, free content. There will be new feats, a lot of them, 17 new feats if I remember correctly. It will have, of course, as usual, optimization fixes. But this I don't even talk about anymore because you guys, you expect that. So I'm not gonna talk about this. I am looking to the list of things that will be added. I'm just trying to make sure the cat is not being annoying, so just bear with me for a moment. He's definitely looking at my keyboard and he wants to walk on it, so just go down, cat, go down. And also, yeah, we'll also be adding 3 new backgrounds. Although those backgrounds won't have any background quest because they're kind of new. They're post Lost Valley, so you'll have access to the asset, the ascetic, the artist, and the occultist, which kind of goes hand in hand with the warlock, the bard, and the monk. And at the end of the day, the one thing I wanted to add, which is going to be the teaser, is there will be also 1 new race in that DLC. I am not going to say which one. I'm going to leave you with this to ponder on so that you can try to think about what race it is going to be. So there we go. I am going to see if there's any questions, first of all, and then we're going to be moving a bit more. Okay, so questions from Men Mode Till Death. Is there going to be Pact of Blade? Yes, Warlocks will have their packs. There will be Pack of Chain, Pack of Blade, and Pack of I don't remember the last. Pack of Tome, I think. The thing that you have to keep in mind is that we won't be adding familiars. So the Pack of Chain will basically have you. Each familiar will basically give you a different power. So familiars will become combat powers. because again, familiars on tabletop are really great for roleplay purposes, exploration, sneaking in, opening doors, and all that. But on Solasta, you all know that our options for explorations are very limited. So we didn't want to have like a weak, basically a weak pet just following you around doing nothing. Instead, we turned that into like a passive active component. So Bard, there will be no College of Swords because, like we said, the College of Dueling came close to winning, but we didn't get it. Someone asked, will there be an update to the Dungeon Maker? No, we're usually updating the Dungeon Maker whenever we have a new campaign, so that we can add like the new environment in it. But for the DLC that's coming up next, here we have only new classes and one new race. So there will be no new content for the Dungeon Maker. Actually not as far as I know. So maybe it's going to be different, but I'm pretty sure there won't be. Can we add mission boards to the map when you are in town? Oh, you mean as like a little marker to remember where it is? Does cantrip like Booming Blade or Green Flame Blade be added? No, because Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade are not SRD, so we cannot add them. Playing Sorax is actually a crazy cool idea. Well, guys, remember Sorax are kind of the enemy, and we kind of made it so that Sorax are. There isn't really nice Sorax in the game. It's one of those things where some enemies can be morally gray. For example, orcs, you have like friendly orcs, you have like hostile orcs. Sorax are universally hostile in this setting. Timeline release, like I said, it's in a few months. I can't say more than that. Any feat you're really excited about? Let me just see, because I think I designed most of those new feats. So let's take a look at it to see what we have. So actually, I'm gonna be able to. I'm gonna go over it so you guys already know. We have Arcane Appraiser, which is kind of like just a feat that we added because there was some complaints about a lot of things. So Arcane Appraiser is magical items are automatically identified when put in your inventory. Why we added this feat is because we have quite a few players who decide to do runs without wizards, and they don't have identify, and they find it very tedious to have to wait until going back to this town and paying for identification. So we added a feat. It's not very powerful. It's just there for convenience purpose. Like some people might just say, screw that, that's worth a feat. We have some classics, such as Badland Marauder, which is you gain resistance to poison damage and have advantage against being poisoned, and you gain +1 constitution. You have Forest Runner, which gives you +2 movement cell, so that means +10 feet in move speed, and +1 to dexterity. You have Mighty Blow. When you attack with a dual-handed weapon, you add damage equal to half your strength modifier. So this is basically kind of copying 3.5, where when you had the two-handed weapon, you dealt more strength, more damage with strength. You have Cloak and Dagger. After you hit an enemy with a light weapon, you gain +2 AC until the start of your next turn. It doesn't stack, so you cannot get like +4 if you attack with like 2 daggers. So this is kind of encouraging rogues to stay in frontline, because rogues usually can get down very easily because they sometimes they just don't have enough AC and all that. You have Distracting Gambit. After you hit an enemy with a one-handed weapon, they lose 1 AC for 1 minute. It doesn't stack. So that means that you can just go around and debuff the entire enemy team. Again, this is things that we're trying to do to spice up the gameplay and to basically change the way you play with some of the characters. So a character with Distracting Gambit would more likely not target down a single enemy, but hit multiple enemies to get everyone to lose 1 AC. Forestalling Strength. When you wield a two-handed weapon, you gain +1 AC. So again, adding a bit of love to that dual-handed build because unfortunately, two-handed weapons are not very optimal in 5e. We have Mender. Mender is when you stabilize an ally with a medicine check, they regain 1 HP. A lot of people, might think that this is weak because Healer in 5e already allows you to do that with a Healer's Kit. But in Solasta, you have to remember that this is a video game and that it can very easily break encounters by just, healing up to 1 and basically you're fresh as a flower. Because in D&D, you don't lose anything when you're at 1 HP compared to when you're at 50 HP. You can still cast your spells the same, you can still attack the same and all that. So we made sure that it wasn't too powerful. And yeah, we don't have Great Weapon Master in Solasta, which is also why we are pushing a bit more health there. Xbox fixes, yeah. Normally, when we do like a big update, there will be Xbox. There will be fixes for everything. It's like a update for like performance and all that. So, and then we have Blessing of the Elements, which is a fun one. Whenever you take fire, cold, or lightning damage, you can use your reaction to become resistant to those damage until the start of your next turn. This feature recharges on a short rest. So basically, it's like it's a little bit of a help against burst damage when it's like fire, cold, or lightning. And then you have the touches. So that's what I was talking about when I said there are a few different feats that are sharing the same tree. Toxic Touch, Melting Touch, Burning Touch, Icy Touch, Electrifying Touch. Those 5 different feats is the first time you deal damage with an unarmed or weapon attack during each turn, you deal additional poison, fire, ice, lightning damage equal to your proficiency bonus. So you can only take one of those. You cannot stack the different touches. But this adds a little bit of a damage there. It is not going to stack with the attack. It's once per turn. So it's kind of like a sneak attack. This makes it so that it's not completely broken among. And then you have Ready or Not, which is you have advantage on your attack rolls when using Ready Action. Ready Action exists in Solasta, but let's be fair, Ready Action is not very well used because when you do a Ready Action, you cannot attack twice if you have two attacks. So here we are trying to help a little bit to use your Ready Action. Ready or Not adds the fact that anytime you use a Ready Action, you have advantage on your attack roll. You have Master Alchemist. Oh no, wait, actually, this one is already in the game. Sorry. So that those two are already in the game. So yeah, Ready or Not, and then you have Trip Attack. When an enemy is hit with a melee weapon ready attack, they must make a contested roll if you use as if you use the shove action or be knocked prone. So Trip Attack and Ready or Not are both feats to help the Ready Action, where if you do a Ready Action and you hit an enemy, it does a whole lot of things. Exactly. In tabletop D&D, Ready only allows for a single attack. All right. So those were the feats. Those were the feats. Now we are, because I still have 20 minutes, I'm going to show you a little bit of a sneak peek on the work in progress. Because you've seen all those nice little illustration, and as a reminder, illustration is made by Lee Hill. On Twitter you can find her, or on Instagram you can find her as well. If you like her art, know that her commissions are open and that she does wonderful work, and that she's a sweetheart to work with. So don't hesitate to go and follow her, and even give her some love about all those illustrations that were super cool. And yeah, just say hello. But now back to the sneak peek. First of all, let's show you one of the new unhanded unarmed attack animation for the monk, doing a little bit of a spinning kick. So she's both on Twitter and Instagram. There won't be any new hairstyle, sorry about that, yeah. And then we're going to show you the return missile feature. So again, this is in development, so everything you see here is so here you catch and you throw back the missile. This is where you can see that we're a French company because the game is in French. And the text isn't ready. The text isn't ready yet either. Okay, and then we're going to be showing a few more things. This is Malakalan Perfection, which is from the College of Tradition, I think, of our bards. So here's the effect going up. Malakalan Perfection is a high-level feature for the Tradition Bard, which guarantees the target to roll maximum on their next inspiration die. It's not a healing bard, not this one. And then you have Cutting Words that we have adapted. Cutting Words now works on all the rolls of the enemy for a turn. Then you have Malediction, a spell for the Warlock, which will replace Hex. And here you see Hellish Rebuke being shown on the right. Sorry, but there won't be any insult like in Baldur's Gate 3. We just don't have the the budget to actually add 130 insults for each of our voice lines. And then this one is the Curse of Time for the Warlock. Time Warlock. You will have the little sunglasses turning over the enemy's head. You have the Time Shift when you get hit. Just disappearing into nothingness. For Cutting Word, we made it different. For Cutting Word, you know, because we knew that there would be too many pop-ups, Cutting Words have been buffed. Cutting Words work on every single roll of the enemy that is, valid, and it just retracts. You know, every single thing they do, they will roll the dice for one turn. And then we have Accelerate. And I think that's all. So yeah. We are going back to the free talk. Alright, so I hope you guys really enjoyed this little presentation. We still have 15 minutes before I log off, so if you guys want to talk about anything or have any questions, I'm here to answer your questions. Did the Light Monk have a level 17 feature? I don't think so. I don't think we did that. Throwable torches. No, but you can drop them on the ground. Maybe one day. PDF giveaway. Not this time, but we will probably do one another time. And we'll give the PDF to the winners, of course. So that's why you should absolutely contact us. When we will get more races added into the game? Well, actually, we'll have one new race in this DLC, so there will be a new race. Do you still have any major projects in mind past Solasta? We will be working on another game soon, I hope. I mean, the thing is, we're working on Solasta because we love it and because it's working well as well. But we are absolutely planning on working on other games. Like we cannot sustain only on DLC alone because we're not a game as a service. I know a lot of people hate that word, but it's actually a model that exists. We don't do like microtransactions. We don't do weekly events or monthly events or updates. We are kind of an old school game where we are like, we release the game and then we release DLC, then we release like an expansion with Lost Valley, then another DLC, and then now we're like every single class is now down. So we're not gonna add new and classes that don't exist, right? When will we hear about the other official non-community subclass detail? You will actually get more information about that when we reveal the release dates. We will be writing articles about that. For now, I think I can actually tell you the name of the new subclasses that we have. So for the Bard, we have College of Lore, we have College of Hope. That is a a homebrew one from us. College of Hope is more the healing archetype. We have College of Traditions, which is the one that is linked to Lost Valley. So basically, we will be consistent with what we did for the existing classes. There will be, when you get the DLC, there will be there will be 3 archetypes unlocked, and one is also behind Lost Valley, because Lost Valley has one archetype for each class. So you get 3 archetypes unlocked, and one is if you have a Lost Valley. College of Tradition is the one behind Lost Valley, and then you have College of Heroism, that is the community class archetype. For the Monk, you have Way of the Open Hand, which is SRD. You have Way of Freedom, which is from Homebrew, which is the one that is Lost Valley only. You have Way of Survival, which is Inner Strength, and you have Way of Light, which is a community one. And for Warlock, you have the Fiend, which is SRD. You have the Hive, which is going to be the one that is available a baseline at Homebrew. You have the Tree, which is the one that is behind Lost Valley, and the Timekeeper. And some people might be hearing the Hive or the Tree and being like, what the hell is that? I have to wait a little bit more to get an idea. I'm taking a look at other questions. Eldritch Splash animation, I don't have it here. VR mod, no. Any other class balance? We're not gonna do a lot of balance. I know we have buffed the spiritual, the kindred spirits. The kindred spirits, some of them were really weak because they had too little HP, and there was no reason to choose, for example, a flying snake over a bear, ever. So we have basically squished the stats a bit more, so that more they kind of they are closer to each other in terms of stats. Any plan for new magic items to be added? Yes, there will be new magic items for the new classes. Controller support for PC, we're working on it. What incantation will be available? A lot of them. I cannot give you the list, but I know a few of them couldn't make it in, but quite a lot of them were added. Are you planning to update the character's model? No. Basically at this point in the cycle of life, we're way too late to make such big changes. But we are absolutely aware of the criticism that people have about the character models, and that is something that we are absolutely going to take a look at for next game to avoid having the same issue. Will there be a melee focused subclass for Bard? I don't think at launch. Can we have Fiendish Armor that adds 5 temporary... we don't have that, sorry. Will the DLC be out on PC and Xbox? Yes, the goal is that Xbox get the same DLC as PC. Is there a plan to add support for modders to change character models? I don't think so, because modders, they use Unity mod managers and they kind of hack the code. We're not doing anything to help that. So changing character models and hair and stuff like that, you could add the modders, but I think it's too complex. Solasta 2, well, you never know. Maybe we're gonna announce that one day. Can we get a vague estimate or priority for customization option, hairstyle, face tattoos, etc.? There isn't, usually it's not a huge priority because, again, we know our faces are not the greatest, and at this point, trying to improve them is basically adding it would be you have a big wound and you come and you take a little band-aid and you apply it on it. So we know that there's something bad with our faces, and again, hindsight 2020, we the technology we're using, the choices we made during development might not have been the wisest one, because we can also admit when we made mistakes, right? So at this point, we do have sometimes when we have time, we think about, hey, could we add more hairstyle or faces and all that? but it's not a guarantee because at the end of the day, even if we add more faces, we're still using the same technology. Even if we add more hairstyle, the faces don't change. So there's still this problem, right? It's basically a losing battle. People will always say that the faces are not good, especially if they compare to Baldur's Gate 3, which is absolutely gorgeous next to our game. Why choose a non-official class for the Warlock? Because simply put, we are using SRD. We don't have the full license. We cannot create the Genie Warlock or the Archfey Warlock or the Celestial Warlock because we don't have the rights to that. So we can only use the Fiend Warlock, which is SRD. Question plan on making a new high-level campaign. This is something we want to do, but it's, there's nothing announced yet. Will you guys make an actually Arc mode? I don't know what that is, sorry. I need my Cosmetic Hat Packs. Yes, exactly. You can buy your hat for $9.99, and the hat comes in like a mystery box. You have to pay $9.99 for a box, and when you open it, you either get an icon or you get a hat. No, don't take that personally. Don't take that seriously. Fun fact: I used to be monetization manager on a free-to-play MMO, so I absolutely know about all those tactics, and let me tell you, they work. That's why so many games are doing it. It's because, simply put, it makes much more revenue than just selling like the hats into a normal shop, which is kind of sad, but yeah, gotta do what you gotta do if you want to develop games. Any items added to this DLC or upcoming DLC? Yes, like I said, there will be items added for the Bard Monk and all that. There's a bug that caused desync. Okay, yeah, so by the way, if there are bugs, guys, don't report them there. Go on Discord or send us a mail and include a save if you can. I know that on Xbox it's impossible. For Xbox it's actually much harder to debug. But give us as much information as possible, like, the character you're using, what you were doing. Can you actually recreate the bug by doing the same thing again? Because that's basically something that helps a lot. Like, we can find the bug when it's constantly doing the same thing. If you say, for example, I cast... let's say I cast Levitate, and with Levitate, after that, I cast on top of the guy that has Levitate, Fly, and then the game crashes. And every time you do that, it crashes. 100% of the time. Then for us, it's easy to confirm, because we just do Levitate, Fly, Crash. If it does Levitate, Fly, and it every 3 times it crashes, and we try it and it doesn't crash, and we try it again, it doesn't crash, then we don't know what's causing it either, right? So... will there be more more adventures campaigns? Like I said, it's not impossible. We haven't announced anything yet, but it's absolutely something we're looking at. Anything in the future have as good as Solasta? You found me quickly in the Steam library. That's great. Thank you. Will the feats be posted in the article? No, the feats are not included because technically I wasn't supposed to talk about the feats. I just decided to open our in-house wiki and talk about it. Are you releasing all the details from today's in written form? Yes, at least about the classes, the archetype. What are you doing to determine the monk unarmed damage? Well, I mean, SRD has a list, it has basically a scaling table, and we're gonna follow that. Will the dwarven hammer ever be made usable? So, as far as I know, you can use it for fighting, but you cannot throw it. That was the problem. It was named Dwarven Thrower, and you couldn't throw it because the name was wrong. Still D&D for next game or something else? We'll see. I don't know. What's Perdition's meant to do? I don't know what Perdition is. How do I become a Warlock? Where do I need to sign up? I don't know, man. If you ever find out, just please tell me, because I would love me some magic power. Just hope you will do a Solasta 2 with more voice acting, a better character creator. We all want to do better. It's like, you have to remember that even though we are kind of like tired to hear about like the faces being bad and all that, it's not like we are denying the reality of things. We know that it's not great, so it's just that we're like, at this point we can't really change it anymore, so we just have to tank the feedback, and we're like, next time we'll do better. It's just like, yeah, next time we'll show them, right? Nature Warlock. Any Warlock get medium armor without a feat? I don't think so. Will it possible to make a melee focused bard? Not yet, I think. Any way to inspect your status effects on your character? I think you can. You just mouse over the status character. You mouse over the status effect, and normally there should be a pop-up or a mouse over an overlay. I'm smelling mind flayers or maybe hive mind. Mind flayers are actually not SRD. We cannot use them. Would you guys ever consider doing a Deadlands game? Okay, so this is something actually we can talk about. A lot of people have said, "Hey, why don't you make a Warhammer game? Why don't you make a, you know, why don't you make a, oh, I forgot, Pathfinder game, right? Why don't you make a, I don't know, like there's a lot of TTRPGs out there, right? And a lot of people ask us about adapting their TTRPG, the one they like into a video game. Now, the thing about why we went for D&D is because we're like a lot of us in the studio are D&D players. We know D&D. We play D&D on the weekly basis. On the daily basis, we wish. On the weekly basis, we play D&D. We've played D&D for like a long part of our life. Like our boss has been playing D&D since like the very first edition. I've been playing D&D since like 2010 or even 25 or something. So it's like it's something like that. So I've been playing for a long time. Everyone has been playing for a long time. And if ever we decide to go for a Warhammer game, for example, well, we have to make sure that we understand the RPG first, because if like what happens when you do like an adaptation and you don't know anything about the source material, it ends up not being a very good adaptation, because the fans know what the game is about, but the developers don't. And there's a lot of examples like that where someone took a system and they don't know about the system, they try to make a game, it sucks because it's really not the game, the soul of the game is not here. So we don't want to do that. If we ever do like a Pathfinder or a Warhammer game, which is not impossible, we'll just need to take a long time to learn about the game first. Subscribe to Ina from a Hololive. Yes, that is the fathomless patron for the Warlock. You get a free tentacle and all that as a feature. Will you make more campaigns for Solasta? Like I said, we may. We don't know. Will there be any dark mode? What dark mode? Are you talking like Solasta doesn't really need the dark mode, does it? Like it's not Google, right? Please fix Spellblade. That's interesting. I'm not really sure what's to fix. I mean, I know it's weak. Don't get me wrong. I know Spellblade is weak. But unless we change like the spell list of the Spellblade and stuff like that, that might not be possible. And the problem if we do that is that it kind of forks any save with existing Spellblades, right? So this is not something we want to risk at this point. Is there any, would there be any 5 players parties? No, at this point, it's like the system is designed for 4 players, so adding a 5th one would just break things. That is being annoying again. Yeah, I saw the Fiendish Armor comment, but yeah, we haven't planned anything like that. Will the level cap increase? Can we go to level 20 someday in Solasta? It's very doubtful. So what I explained earlier, like on another stream, is that whenever you increase the level cap, you have to think about the entirety of the cast, which is going to be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have 12 classes. Each of them have 4 archetypes. So we're up to 48 archetypes. Anytime you increase the level, max level, you have to think about the 48 archetypes and all the features that they will unlock. And on top of that, you also have to think about all the spells that you unlock, because you have spellcasters, all the magic items that you need to, because you're not going to go further with like the same magic items. So you will need to add magic items. You will also need to add monsters to challenge your characters that are high level. But you can't just put monsters in a corridor and call it a day. So on top of the new monsters, you also have to do a new campaign. If you do a new campaign, you need to write a new scenario. You have to do new NPCs. You have to write new dialogues. You have to record more voices. It is extremely costly in terms of work and time. So, you know, modders can easily unlock level 20, but if we do that officially, we need content to go with it. Any craftable weapon, any chance craftable weapons can be made random drops? No, because the craftable weapons are basically that. They're like rewards for crafting. So yeah. Will you guys add verticality to Dungeon Maker? It's doubtful because Dungeon Maker is made to be 2D and simple. So adding a 3D layer makes it much more complex. And this is something we thought about, and so far we haven't found an easy way to implement it. So we're still thinking about it, right? It's never something that we're going to say, no, screw that. But so far we haven't found a way to do it simply. Steam Deck compatibility. This is something we'll have to look about. Are you considering doing Solasta with one D&D rule set in... Solasta 2 with one D&D rule set in 2024? That is very specific. I mean, we don't even know if we're going to do a Solasta 2. We don't even know if we're going to go with D&D again. But yeah, if ever we do D&D, we'll probably try to see if we can do like one D&D rule set, as long as it's also like, you know, legally allowed. Because again, you know, SRD, one D&D, not the same thing. But yeah, we're looking at one D&D very closely. Will the DLC be out on PC and Xbox? Yes, the DLCs are on all platforms. I'm sure this community expansion mod will add a melee bard subclass. Yes, there you go. As always, remember the patch, the new update will probably break mods for a few days, while the devs behind the mod try to make it work. That's just how it is because we changed a lot of things, so it does break mods. When can we expect the release date? Yes, absolutely, this year. In the coming weeks, maybe month, I think we're gonna release the date, at least. Maybe vague, but we are gonna release a more specific time frame. Don't remember if you answered this already. What are you going to determine the monk unarmed damage? Again, I said there is a table, but we're just gonna use the official table. Will the feats be mentioned on the article? No, the feats is something I just talked about, but there will be a VOD, so you can go back and take a look at it. How did you handle the potential for lore bar cutting word giving too many pop-ups? Again, we cutting words pretty hard. We just said, you know what? When you use cutting words, it works for one round on the enemy that you have targeted. Every single roll he makes is affected by cutting words. If it's like, you know, a valid roll, because the cutting words affects not every single word roll. It affects, if I remember correctly, let me just take a look at it. Cutting word is going to be on attack rolls, ability checks, and damage rolls, not on saving throws, not on anything else. But every single attack roll, damage roll, and ability checks they will make will be affected by cutting words. It is very powerful in that sense. Are there any Hexblade equivalent? Nope. Steam Deck compatibility. Level 20 is just already when. Already said that. Unlock more NPC head is what modder use for better face. Okay. NC armors. Wait. Am I looking at the same thing again, or are people just repeating the same question? Loot box places. Okay, yeah, I'm just getting to the point where people are answering to what I'm saying. I have a physical and a physical Solasta rulebook. When do I get the PDF? Silverthorn. If you go on Crowdocs on your account, you have the PDF. The PDF is downloadable there. If you have a physical source book, you have the PDF. That's guaranteed. And the DLC is not included in the in the backer program. The backer only gives you the base game and the backers DLC, because like you had the backer DLC to get some special items and all that. But yeah. There we go. I'm gonna scroll a bit faster because we're over time. Yeah, and for those who are wondering how to get the source book, know that we are sometimes doing giveaways and holding giveaways for the PDF. We don't have any more source book almost, so we can only go for PDFs. Favorite class, darkness, hard to deal with. Can you make darkness harder to deal with? I'm not sure. Patron dismiss, give me pad power. Verticality, dungeon maker, we talked about it. Do you plan to update to 1 D&D? Graphics alright. Thank you. Solasta face, daily basis, Steam Deck optimization. Again, what I said is like we don't know yet. Any chance the game will be coming to PS4 Switch? Doubtful, because it's very costly to port to a console. And like for example with Microsoft, we had like the Game Pass, so you know like the game is also on Game Pass on Xbox, so it made sense. For PS4 and Switch, we don't have any deal like that, so it kind of makes it very hard to. And again, you know, the more we work on this, the less we work on the game and the DLCs as well. So, will there be a Spanish translation? Not planned anyway. How about advertising on some YouTube podcast to grow the game? Every Kickstarter can afford to. We already do that. Like, if you take a look, you'll see that if you type Solasta on YouTube or on Twitch, they are actually streamers playing the game and all that. Anytime we release like a new DLC, for example, there are like people streaming that. Fighters a big week in general on Solasta. Yeah, it's character permadie. No. So the permadeath thing is something we decided at the beginning of the development. At first, we the creative director wanted to have permadeath, but it became way too unstable for the narration. For example, like the example I was giving is Bob gets killed, and suddenly you're down Bob, and you recruit like Roger instead. But in terms of narration in the dialogue, Roger is gonna say the same thing that Bob would say, even though he just joined, and he knows everything that Bob knows, and that everyone in the party just considered Roger as if it was Bob, like it's their best friend. But he just arrived, so it didn't make any sense. Like, you know, narratively speaking, it broke all the immersion. So we just said, you know what, screw that. You have a fixed party. You just make the party. You keep on going with the same party. Can you guys make dungeons darker and dark zone harder to navigate and deal with enemies? The problem with making dungeons darker is that we know a lot of people don't use lights and they don't see anything, and that is very hard to force someone to use a torch, and a lot of people just end up just doing the entire dungeon in the dark, even if they want to strain their eyes. So we're not going to encourage that. Will we get a crafting rework? Crafting is getting out of control, too many recipe, ingredients, etc. I don't think there will be a crafting rework, but we probably won't be adding too many new ingredients, so the recipe will still use the same ingredients. And yeah, there will be more recipe, but you basically can buy, you know, the recipe you want. Like if you want to do a long sword, you just buy, like, you know, long sword the recipes. Can you add slings? No, I don't think so. I don't think we have slings. What else do we have? I'm just gonna go through because it's 8-minute overtime now. I'm really gotta go. Any chance for a source book reprint? Not yet. Like we would love to sell the source book, but we have legal agreement on some of the stuff. It's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, so I'm not gonna go into that. Showing capes when. Will there be any feat to keep concentration on more than one spell? No, because that breaks the entire 5e balance. It will be like saying you have 2 actions or 2 reactions per round. Nope. Gave for some Steam Deck. I saw some people from Niji Senji playing it earlier this summer. Yep, we did work with Niji Senji. Nina and Rosemi in particular. Homebrew Warlock incantations. No, we have enough with the actual ones. Preset companion. Okay, any chance for an adventure with preset companion allowing for more personal storytelling? So this is actually something we thought about, and it might work for a spin-off game, for example, but for Solasta, your Solasta is based on being able to create your party, not one hero. So going back on that is going against the values of Solasta, which is why I don't think a DLC in Solasta could do that. However, it's not a bad idea for like another game or a spin-off game or something like that. We understand the the advantage and the disadvantage of creating a full party. Like creating a full party makes it's very hard to have some sort of very well written dialogue, because you could create a party with 4 asshole rogue if you wanted, and the dialogues would be a lot different than if you create like 4 paladins. So again, it's like, gameplay speaking, being able to make 4 classes of like, I mean, 4 characters is great. Narratively speaking, it's different. It's not so great. Do we get new spells sometimes on updates? No, we do get more spells when you do like level cap upgrades, but hope you made more DLC. Level cap increase this update. No. What did I see here? Would you use professional writers? We already use professional writers. One of our writers was Graham Davis, and we're talking about the guy who actually wrote the Warhammer Fantasy TTRPG source book back in like the 70s or 80s. I don't remember when. The 80s, 90s, maybe? I don't know. So yeah, we have professional writers. We just have very few of them. Never expected Nina's Rosemi to come up here. Well, I mean, we work with a lot of content creators. Is it true that Larian Studios have helped you in making Solasta? I mean, they have backed us on Kickstarter, so in that way they helped us. But we've never worked together, if that's the question. We never like sent question to them, and they never were involved in the development of Solasta. But they are like, good friends, as in like we're all making CRPGs. All Cat Games also like backed our Kickstarter. We had Obsidian as well, so it's a very nice thing to see that like devs are sticking together. How do you get around blade lock being bad? We don't have blade lock right now. Well, I mean, yeah, we do have, but yeah, it's kind of bad. Let's be honest. Love forging is needed. Da, da, da. Okay. All right, so hopefully I answered most of your questions. I'm going to be logging off now. So thank you guys for being there. I hope you enjoyed. I'll be posting the articles tomorrow when I'm back in the office. But you can look forward to the. Actually, I'm gonna. Oh, okay. I'm gonna be posting the articles now rather than tomorrow for the website because they are ready. But on Steam and other places like Kickstarter, know that it will be tomorrow because it takes time to adapt the articles and all that. All right. So hope you guys enjoyed, and thank you very much for being there. And hope to see you guys another time when we do another dev stream, probably around the launch of the next DLC. See ya, bye, and stay in the light. Bye.
Well, that was pretty exciting, but a little long. I really thought they were going to show the like a picture of all the stuff, like all the different new subclasses and things. But I guess we'll get that soon in a few days. Anyway, like I said, I gotta head out, so I'll probably be streaming tonight. But take care.